I'm a parent just like you are. You don't give me privileges and time to see my daughter.
He kept her way too long.
This is the first time I've
Welcome everybody to the Municipal and Wastewater Budget Workshop, Part 2. Just to remind everybody, there will be no public comment. And this is the second of 2 meetings for the department expenditures and revenues. Could I please have a roll call? Councilor Higgins.
Here.
Councilor Medor.
Here.
Councilor Bragdon.
Present.
Councilor Pelletier. Here. Chair Dumais is here. Councilwoman Danforth is absent, but she is excused. She has some work-related duties. All right. So, Mr. Manager, are you prepared to lead us into our second meeting?
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Bragdon, if I could have you start with the budget changes document that I had provided. Fantastic. So, taking into consideration the suggestions of last week and then some discoveries of our own between last week and this week, we have several changes in the proposed budget. The first item here listed, page 2, expense. This is the election workers line from the conversation about raising that pay scale for the election workers. That's represented on page 2 of the revised expense report. On page 3, we also made a slight adjustment to the part-time position that is shared between the assessing and code office. With the proposed increase in hours with that position, there is a slight increase to the salary and benefits to cover the main PERS program, retirement program. The page 7, economic development, the additional $25,000 is represented in that line, bringing that total to 50,000. We have an adjustment in the rec department for the retirement line, about $4,000 there. The adjustment listed in the expense, the budget changes report under the airport operation is due to just a slight misclassification of some funds in that first draft. We had the entirety of that $44,000 in one line. We've just done some housekeeping and spread that out appropriately where it should be. The dollar amount is the same. There is a change to the capital budget. We were able to do some creative maneuvering of fundings, and we eliminated about $65,000 from that line. We'll get into the specifics around that later this evening. The one that I skipped over will be maybe up for discussion. We have received word and respectfully yet regrettably accepted a letter of resignation from our code enforcement officer just this week. So that position will be posted in the very near future. The change represented in this draft of the expense budget represents what it would be if we were to include benefits to that department. As you remember, the current code enforcement officer did not require to use our benefits program. And I have a suggestion. So my suggestion is that given the line of work of code enforcement and the trends around the state, the likelihood of a successful applicant without a need for benefits is pretty high. My suggestion is to identify the funding for the benefits and set them aside, much like we did for the funding with potential firefighter EMT positions. So if we take that roughly $30,000 or so, we set it aside and identify it for those benefits if there is a need for them. However, with the likelihood of a successful candidate not needing them, I would hate to raise that additional tax money without an actual need to spend it. I think that's a pretty safe alternative. And then if it's needed, we can revisit that at this time next year. The overall change as presented here in this draft, actually just a small decrease of $2,038, bringing the total revised expense budget down to $7,461,721. And I'd ask for some feedback on my suggestion with the benefits there with the code enforcement.
Councilman Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's a good idea. I think that doing it with the idea of the same way we're doing the fire department positions, I think only makes sense. It's there if we need it. If we don't need it, then it's not a problem to move it back to the undesignated fund balance if necessary. But I think it's a good idea and I would support moving in that direction.
Council Higgins. Council Bragdon.
I'm in agreement.
Council Pelletier.
Fantastic. So once we create that change and set that funding aside, the total decrease will be closer to a full $35,000, bringing that down to $7,430,000 some odd. There's one more unknown in that report that I have listed. That is, we are expecting a retirement from our longtime fire department employee, Mr. Malcolm. That number is unknown at this point in time. If you remember in a recent budget update or financial update that I did, we had quite a chunk of money that left with our group of retirees from the last year. This is the same situation when an employee retires after a long time. There's some different funding and vacation time and other things that all play into a mustering out check to be written. So that is not included in here, and we won't know that for several more months. Councilor Bragdon, if you could change over to the expense report, we can pick up where we left off and head through there. All right. So with the expense report, we're going to start with Public Works Administration. We can move down. I think it's, find what page it is. I can be helpful. Page 14. So in Public Works Administration, 0402, the changes in here are really solely related to salary and benefits. There's an increase to the salary line, substantial decrease to the benefits line. Overall change in that department is decrease of $10,280. Any questions on that department?
Council Bador.
The only thing I was going to ask Mr. Manager is line 3004, the hospital insurance. I see that has dropped 14,376. Why do you, with the increase in the salary or new public works director, that line has dropped, and I just would like to get a clarification of why that line has dropped.
That would be reflective of a family coverage versus a single plan.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but I wanted to ask me.
It's a pretty substantial change.
Okay, thank you.
Good to move forward. We have garage maintenance 0403. That's a pretty simple budget. We're proposing a decrease of $2,000. 0407. Public Works Roads and Construction. There are several decreases in this department related to pay and benefits. As I mentioned just a moment ago, we had several very long time tenured employees leave that. They were at the top of the union pay scale. We have a different, people coming in at lower on the pay scale for that union, and it causes quite a bit of difference in the salary line. We're expecting an increase in the price of gas, oil, and grease. That is a $10,000 value. Yep, and then the paving in here is if you read the numbers, it's a decrease of $110,000. On the surface, it's $110,000. It's not actually that drastic. See, we had originally budgeted in FY23 for $350,000 in that line, and then later in the year we had to up that by $60,000 for a specific item. And currently we have about 50,000 unspent, which gets spent later in the spring on coal patch and other kind of local paving related items. So what we have here is a lower dollar amount, but it's not all that different when you look at the amount of work being done and the cost of the material. And as I've provided to each of you, actually a printout is the suggested paving list. So we can discuss that if you'd like. We have our recommendations, and overall in that department shown on the budget, we have a decrease of $129,396.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and propose, moving forward in this budget, that line 2011, road paving construction, I'd like to increase that by $100,000. It seems that the majority of the councilors that I've talked to, and myself included, talking to people in the community, that paving streets has become a very important issue for the, and I really would like to go ahead and I think we're in a position this year financially where we could afford to do a little extra. It's always the practice and is always what we do year after year after year. But this year, I think we can do it without of decimation of the budget or whatever, or burden on the taxpayer. So I'd like to increase line 2011, road paving and construction by $100,000, moving it up to $400,000.
I'll entertain that in a second. I just have a question, Manager, and possibly the Public Works Director. Do we have a plan going forward? And thank you for the printouts of the streets that are intended to be done. If you did have an additional $100,000, have you identified 3 or 4 more streets that would be done?
Can you,
Could you come to the mic, please, sir?
the first list that was quoted came back at about $800,000. So I think we can come up with some
Well,
options.
let's start slow.
My
Pump the
first shot
brakes.
was 800,000, so
Pump the brakes.
Island Avenue has some sections that I would like to do. There's some bad sections up there. The whole street, you could almost make an argument for, but that would go over the 100,000 by itself.
Okay.
So I'd probably do piecemeal that, and Spring Street has sections that, again, you can make an argument the whole thing could get it.
What about Penobscot Ave?
As far as Main Street, I hadn't looked into that, thinking that was going to be part of the downtown revitalization that they're.
Okay,
So I didn't even look into any of that.
okay, no, thank you. So you're just looking at Highland Ave at that point for that, or can you piece something else with that? Did you say Spring Street?
Highland Spring.
Highland Spring, State Street intersection of
Yep.
Spring.
Now, Brian, can I ask a question? Or Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
The 48,000 unspent right now, how much of that is planned to be spent? And might we be able to offer some of it as a carry forward to offset the 100?
4,000 or 5,000 of that right now is going to be tied up in coal patch. I think you'll be signing those warrants tonight. We've already spent that. Other than that, I would say 40,000 as we stand right now.
So if you had hypothetically that deficit of 110,000, if you had that 110,000, that would give you 150,000 to work with
If
on top of the 3 that
yeah.
that you're requesting.
If I understand how the roll forward works, yes, the carry
Right.
forward.
How does that seem to you guys?
I could live with that.
Council Higgins?
Councilor Craig.
Yeah.
How about now?
There's no,
Okay, about the coal patch, because it's called out for its own line item for the coal patch.
It does have its own, and this, what was in there, the price has gone up substantially in 12 months. And we've gone beyond that.
Right, so should we roll more money into the coal patch?
I asked for a little bit more. I probably could have asked for more than I did, but and it's about $3,500 a load, and we go through 3 loads a year anyway.
There's some pretty big.
And it used to be 18 to 2,000 a load, so it's.
So what would your request be in a perfect world?
For paving or coal patch?
800,000, 800,000.
800.
It's a lot of coal patch.
I think 10,000 would be,
10,000 in coal
10,000
patch?
in coal patch would cover the current prices and the current usage.
How's the council feel?
Yeah, I think it's more of a necessity than a want.
Let's get the council, before we make a decision, Council Pelletier, do you have any questions or comments? Council Bragdon?
Bob asked the same question I was gonna ask,
Okay.
but we've heard a lot of public outcry about the road, so I think this is a
Absolutely.
perfect time to do this.
So we all know that we're in a national and state problem when it comes to petroleum products and coal patch and our petroleum problems, so there's never gonna be a good time. I think we're in a downward slump for the unforeseeable future. So let's if it's the will of the council, let's bump that to a total of 10,000 on the cold patch line and 110,000 on the road paving and construction line. That
Yep.
Good with the council?
One more question, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
I heard a rumor that there may be another asphalt facility opening up closer to the area. Is that true? And will that save us any money if it does?
There's a company in East Willnacket trying to open one. It will definitely save trucking costs, and it should the overall cost should go down for any hot tops, whether it's stuff we put down or stuff we're hired to put down.
So will that affect the prices that we've been given on this sheet of paper at all?
I don't think you're gonna see it before this budget's gone.
Okay.
It's not something that's happening this summer.
Okay.
This is one of those items I think that for every citizen, good roads, repaired roads, they're tangible, they can see it happening. It's, I think it's a good investment, so for infrastructure, so let's go ahead and bump those lines up, Mr. Manager, if you would, please.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Council Higgins.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I get another question on the portable outhouse. Is that the one on Peddler's Hill?
Yes.
Sure is.
I've heard a lot about the outhouse. Do we need that outhouse on Peddler's Hill? I know it's not a whole lot of money, but I know we've had incidents up there with the outhouse.
But the argument for it is that there's no other public facility anywhere. We do have people that set up shop there throughout the summer. It does get used, truck drivers and whoever else stopping on the way by. That's totally a council decision if they'd like to cut it. I do know there's future plans in the downtown area in partnership with KTP regarding some public restrooms. Maybe it's a future cut and current cut. Some thoughts?
Mr. Chairman.
Council Bragdon.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Councilor Higgins, having heard tremendous stories from the last year, and I hate to say that one person ruins it for everybody or a group of people do, but unfortunately, it comes to a point where you have to say enough's enough, and I'm in the same boat. I don't think it's necessary.
Thank you, Council Bragdon. Council Madore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the argument, but I'm more in line with what the manager just said. I think until an alternative is available, I do think that porta potty is used a lot by a various amount of people. We try to encourage Peddler's Hill as a marketplace for selling goods and things, and that providing that porta potty up there helps those people out that are there all day long. Also, I think we do have people that stop that are driving through or whatever that use that place. We've had a couple of unfortunate incidents. I mean, there's no doubt about it. One comes to mind that is tragic. However, it's not. It wasn't the porta potty's fault. How's that?
Ooh.
The availability of having a public facility to use for people to defecate is a small price, I think. So until such time as there is an alternative somewhere, whether it be in the downtown area or whatever, I think we should keep the porta potty up there for the public health and safety and for use of the public going forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Council Madore. Council Higgins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The other, on that sense, also, we're getting ready to start having those farmers markets here in town. Are they gonna ask for one downtown?
That is a good question.
Thank you, Council Higgins. Council Pelletier.
Yeah, to play off the discussion, I believe that Peddler's Hill's future should be one of closure and to bring down that activity downtown where we need the traffic and bring the porta potty right downtown with it.
Thank you, Council Pelletier. Council Bragdon,
I'll yield to the manager.
Oop, and, okay.
Mr. Manager.
Actually, I kind of like Louis' idea. Wondering if we might consult it's been mentioned, public health and safety. I wonder if we consult the public health and safety officer for the town of Millinocket. And who's also kind of been involved with the farmers market planning. I've seen porta potties in the downtown, in the Veterans Park parking lot. So maybe that's going to continue.
Chief Malcolm, are you able to consult us in this matter? Would you prefer the porta potty place somewhere else? This will make the news.
Tom Malcolm, 73 School
Listen
Street.
up.
I know that this isn't gonna be popular, but I would like to see things move downtown. I mean, we put a lot of money in that bandstand area with power and trying to get things done. I think, in my opinion, we'd be better off to try to focus more down there. We're focusing on a farmer's market down there all this summer, along with the 4th of July. And I will tell you, I had conversations with Mr. Daigle the other day, and I don't think he'll mind me telling you, he's moving back downtown after trying out on the hill. I'm good either way, but if I had a choice, it's a lot easier down there.
Thank you, sir. So, propose that we keep the porta potty and did you have Public Works move it downtown?
Yeah, we wouldn't move it. It would be.
So whoever would be the authority of the porta potty, they could.
I find this incredible. I think this is the longest conversation on the budget that we've had, and it has to do with a porta potty.
So
No,
This
the other
is-
one was
this is
about
the-
25 cents on the election.
So we
Oh
all
my
agree
God.
on keeping the porta potty, just positioning it differently.
Yeah, let's turn it to the left.
All right, you have your direction.
It will never cease to amaze me what
Mr.
we
Chairman?
discuss.
I think this safety officer,
Oh, does he have more to add?
I only can hope.
Just clarification, for myself and for the clerk as well. Are we gonna stop Peddler's Hill? Is that gonna be the idea that we will try to move everything downtown?
I think the objective would to have it flow more downhill down towards.
Thank you.
Slow down.
Thank you.
I got it.
Let's move forward.
Let's move forward.
Before we do. Mr. Chairman,
Fantastic.
I think the safety officer, if you're gonna go there, I think the safety officer brings up a good point. One that I've discussed for years, and that is the closing of Peddler's Hill. Because I do believe that it's an accident looking for a place to happen sometime eventually on that busy part of the Central Street. So if there is no amenities there, if there is no other, if we're going to try to go ahead and start a farmer's market down here, I would encourage the fact that Peddler's Hill be closed for that purpose and everything redirected to the downtown area.
Is that something that we do at a budget workshop or should we wait for?
If there was, the only thing we would do for that would be if there was any financial investment to make the move would be part of the budget. But other than that, it would be something that would be done in an order in the regular council.
Thank you, Council Bragdon. Council Bragdon.
I think Diana has a comment. I want to move on to a different subject, so I was going to try to change it, but if you have more opinion on Peddler's Hill, then I'll wait.
Diana Lakeman, Town Clerk, I'm thinking of the congestion of what's gonna happen in Veterans Park, where you're gonna have all the kids playing and all the vendors. If there's also farmer's market, some vendors that aren't gonna join the farmer's market because it may be too expensive for their taste. So peddlers for the $3 that the lady is selling her eggs for might not join.
Right.
I'm just wondering about congestion. Where is the parking gonna be for the ice cream truck and the kids to run around and all the other vendors that do not want to vend as the farmer's market, but still want to peddle in the town of Millinocket?
I think this is a topic for a council meeting.
I think
rather
so
than a
too.
Council workshop. I think we could
I
move
tried.
that discussion in.
Yep.
Sure.
Can I change the subject?
I'd love you to.
So last year we had a discussion on the paint line and the salt line and seeing the amount of money that isn't spent. I'm curious if there should be a reduction in it. I think paint's only at what, $314 spent if I don't have my glasses on, so I apologize. Should those items be reduced at all? Just curious at where we stand on that part of the budget, salt and paint.
There's. There are, there should be a couple salt bills that aren't reflected on this. We had one delivered last week and we'll have another one as we start mixing our winter sand for next year. That'll kick in before, July 1st.
Maybe something special.
Paint, I have not ordered this year's paint yet. That is on my desk to do before the week's out. And it'll
But
some line striping.
air fried cauliflower.
For Central Street in the main.
Very good.
Is that gonna take up
A good
Yes,
use
that
of the
is how I get it.
cauliflower. Yeah.
That was my question.
Dumbass.
Thank you.
You know, this, they were not gonna use that. Now they've moved it up.
0409 transfer site. The
But we just lost
increase to, pay and
$129,000.
benefits here.
Try it.
Some of that goes with the continuation
I put
of
'em
the
in the old
recycling
one.
facility.
The knob is so
We did
bad.
remember throughout the last year, we had a slight increase to cover additional time.
I didn't
and
use all of them.
Staffing for that facility. The notable increase on here is our landfill cost at $8,000. The overall increase for the transfer site department.
And some butter?
$37,081.
And I put a little bit of cheese. Oh, I need my pills, honey.
That's good. All right, thank you.
0501. Oh, thank you, Brian. Very helpful. 0501, that's the library. This is a suggested increase in accordance with a multi-year agreement from several years ago. The increase proposed here is $25,000.
Council, comment, or suggestion? Councilman.
Yeah, moving forward, and I know there's gonna be a more in-depth discussion with the library, but moving forward, are we going to?
You like them? I do.
I'm wondering if the increments of
Thank you.
adjustment moving forward are gonna remain relatively stable, or if we're gonna move with inflation, or how are we gonna plan for this library going forward? I know we had discussed possibly a contractual.
So what I do know in this moment is that a few years ago, there was a verbal agreement between the library and the town of Millinocket that increased, I believe, for 5 years at $25,000 a year to be tapped out at $175,000. There's a lot of variables in that conversation, and there are other conversations going on parallel to this one that are confidential in nature. So we can't really discuss that at this moment, but the plan that I have right now says $25,000 a year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager.
Any other council comment? I have a comment. I propose that we keep it flat to the $100,000. I think everything that has been presented publicly by the library director and them being very successful at their current budget and all the good things that they're doing. I do agree that they are an asset. I do agree that they're vital to our community, but I like their success at $100,000, not at $125,000. So with that being said, I would be comfortable with $100,000. I don't know if there's other council support for that, but I will. Council Pelletier.
I certainly don't support it. Given we had updates with the library, their quarterly reports, their yearly report. And this financing, this 25,000 that we planned on 5 years is definitely part of that. To cut it now would be to have them go looking elsewhere for it. So I disagree.
Well, just for clarity, I'm not proposing a cut. I'm proposing that it stays the same. Council Bragdon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement with you. I think until we have future discussions on potentials of the library, it should remain where it is. So I'm fine with 100,000 flat.
Councilman Dorr?
I don't agree. I think we need to go ahead and continue to work with the library. They've become a vital service for the community, and I think we honor the agreement by moving it up 25,000 this year. 125 is not unreasonable considering the amount of community service that's funneled through the library. And I'd rather see that happen and rather see continued growth than stagnation. So I'm not in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do have a follow-up question to Councilman Dorr. Is it common practice for prior councils to place those obligations to future councils?
In agreements, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm on. In agreements that happen, yes, it has been practiced in the past that we have gone ahead and made financial commitments to different departments, different sites, different projects that would allow us then to go ahead and continue to pay or contribute until such time as the agreement ended. So if we were talking like a 5-year agreement to, and I believe that came up, I think that started at actually,
2011?
yeah, no. That started, the $25,000 adjustment started probably 2-3 years ago, when the library started to rebuild. So we're probably in year 3 right now. If we go with this 25,000 of the 5 years that we committed to increase. So, yeah, I would say yes, that it's a fairly common practice for the council time to do that.
I confused with the 2011 with the last time that we
Right.
gave them 175,000.
Right.
Council Higgins?
I'm gonna actually agree with you, Mr. Chair, and Council Bragdon. Because there are some confidential stuff that's being discussed. I think we should keep it where it's at right now. And if something is to be discussed, like it was mentioned by Council Madore, possibility of a contract, I say we keep it at the level that it's at right now.
Council Pelletier, did you have something else to add? I thought I seen your hand up. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm in agreement with Councilor Madore. We've never backed out of an agreement.
Thank you. Council Lee? Council Bragdon, Council Higgins?
Again, I don't think the three of us are saying we shouldn't increase it. I think the conversation we're saying is let's wait until we have future discussions and then make a unified decision at that point. And keep it where it is as it stands until we have such conversations.
Councilman Dorr?
I would remind the council as well as the public that while we go ahead and make suggestions at this time, we do have the opportunity to change this again during the public hearings to amend or add or subtract on this budget. So it could be a suggestion to this point to go ahead and look at it or to offer it as an option. But finally, there will be a final vote on it where we go ahead and change at that time.
Correct. And I do know our missing councilors' wishes as well, and I know that it would be a deadlock 3-3. So with that being said, temporarily until the next public hearing and when we have our full council, I'm going to request that Council Bragdon.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reduce
We're not
budget.
taking motions right now.
I thought we can make a motion and then second it, and then it's just a consensus.
These are
Just
just
straw poll.
consensus. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind then. Mary Alice has had a comment. I don't know if we want
Oh,
to hear it.
When you start talking about agreements, if there's an agreement, I would request that I have that in writing so that when we're in the audit process, that's one of the things they ask for, what our obligations are. And at this point, I have no agreement.
So what you're saying, if I'm getting the pulse here, we have a handshake agreement with the library if there's no documentation?
I don't know if I think you'd have to refer, unfortunately, to the previous chairman at the time was Chairman Goley, and see if there was any documentation that was ever drawn up, library and the council, that he is aware of. And
I would need a council order. It would seem if there was an agreement that there would have been a council order passed that would have detailed this ramped up funding. And I don't have that. And if there are any commitments or agreements that are made, that's one of the things the auditors ask for.
Thank you. Clarity. Council Higgins, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, Mr. Manager, you said it was a verbal agreement?
To my knowledge, yes.
Thank you.
So for the sake of this workshop, it is the majority of the council that would like it moved to 100,000. That's certainly a moving target, like Councilor Madore has said. We can increase that at a public hearing when we have more councilors, and the public is certainly allowed to have input at a public hearing and let their wishes know. With that being said, do we have anything else to discuss on the library?
No.
All right, Mr. Manager, move forward.
0700, debt and interest. This is where you'll find housed the GNP loan with our Katahdin, the cardiac monitors. That was a conversation from last year's budget workshops where we decided to lease those units, take on debt for them rather than purchase them in one fell swoop. And then the land purchase as well is listed in there. The overall increase in that department is a whopping $111. Questions?
Over here. Councilor Madore.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Manager, so this is primarily the amount of debt service that the town has right now, other than, so we're relatively, right now, we're relatively, I hope that people see that how good financial shape we are by debt service wise. We are incredibly low compared to our borrowing, and I applaud the town, I applaud the council, I applaud departments to keep it that way until such time as we need, because this is a very important part of the budget right here. So I congratulate you on that, because debt service being this low is a good thing for the middle market. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Madore. Any other council comment? Seeing none?
0815, general assistance. That is shown as flat, zero changes. That's a very small need in our community right now with a very small clientele. And it is an amount that we get reimbursed, I believe 70% of what we do spend out of that line. So overall that we're presenting at flat.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the council? Seeing none? Manager?
0816, public health and welfare. A couple of minor adjustments here. Their largest would be an increase to the donations line. I've had some conversations with several counselors regarding the ability to donate and advertise without in a timely manner without needing to wait several weeks for council approval. The intention there is to have $5,000 in that line that can be spent at the manager's discretion. And if this version of the budget were to pass with that presented in there or represented in there, I would then follow up with a policy to be approved by the council where it would give that discretion to me as a manager or manager as future managers to spend at their discretion. And then an update on the spending within that line would be provided in the very next manager's report at an upcoming council meeting. Overall decrease in that department. Overall, $1,168.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, let me say I agree with the manager on this. I've seen, unfortunately, over the last year or so, where opportunities for the school, for instance, asking us if we could advertise in a program for an event over there or something, but because of the time of the council meetings and not being able to get an order done up in time, kind of it prohibited us from being able to go ahead and get advertising to support our local athletic events or performing arts or whatever involved with the school, other obligations too with other organizations because of the timing of council meeting. In the past, the council has gone ahead and given discretionary power to the manager to do this and then come back with an order to then justify it to make sure that everything was all right after the fact. I like the idea of this better than doing that and having to backtrack on it. So I support the manager on this. I also would like to go ahead and point out and say thank you for line 3812, which is the Memorial Day flags. I see we put $400 more in this year. You do not know what a boost that is for the community to have those flags up to the cemetery. It is a vital thing to have. It looks so nice in the spring when those flags go up and they stay up for the summer. And it is absolutely essential that we continue that service and continue that opportunity for the kids to get involved, the school to get involved, and everything else. So I appreciate the fact that $400 more was put into that line for that purpose. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Bedoya. I'm going to get to the manager and then Council Pelletier.
On the topic of flags, I appreciate your appreciation of the increase in funding there. The big, beautiful flag that we have outside our municipal building now that was once donated by a community member. We've had to take that flag down several times recently, just given the wind damage, and have it repaired and then put back up. What we'd really like to do is purchase a flag of that size, but in a thicker, more durable material that would withstand winds up to 50 miles an hour, let's say. Once the bigger flag got out there, it really did have a really appealing look out there.
Yeah.
So it would be fantastic to have a more permanent one that requires less upkeep. I don't know the price of that off the top of my head, but I would be willing to do the research and bring it back as an addition to this department for the special hearing next week.
Council Pelletier?
Yes, regarding donations, I don't know if it should be under that as a separate ongoing item, or should just put a line in there like the ones for the flags or whatever. But the issue of the Mishu Trail, Age Friendly Millinocket has done a review of that trail and up with some maintenance that needs to be done. They're putting up some, they've gotten funding for some of the patching up for it. Some of the lighting is going to be put in, so night walkers will have motion sensor lighting. But the upkeep of that trail, the flowers and all of that, it's kind of sad that the volunteers that are doing the work have to go out for money. I mean, it is town property, and I think a lot of people get a lot of enjoyment. I see a lot of people walking that trail a lot of time. So I would like to see a permanent line item for the Mishu Trail of $1,000 to take care of equipment and maintenance and even some of the plantings.
Your request is $1,000?
Which still would make them have to rely on outside other funding. They would have to keep going for, like everybody else, grants. And
Council Bragdon?
I have a response to that and then a follow-up to a previous meeting that we had. In response to that, I actually received an email that I had planned to read at tonight's council meeting during the 2-minute public comment regarding the Michoud Trail and equipment. A request for $6,000 for, for patching, soil, equipment, new lawn deck. I'll get further into it tonight, but just so you're aware that there has already been a request for. Yeah, she has a lot of equipment that's failing. She's going out to local businesses
So are
giving
we
out.
talking about a donation line here? Or are we
Yes,
talking
yeah,
about-
I think that if, like Louis stating, that where they're putting in all of this themselves, that there should be either an order to help with it or put in a permanent, I'm agreeing with Louis,
So
but
are
it's
you-
essentially what I'm doing.
So what I'm asking is, are we requesting to put more money into the donation line?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
agreeing with Louis that $1,000 should be added.
$1,000 more?
We're going to maintain that level for this 1 year. You know, that donation line can change year to year, so.
Right.
Should cover, what her needs are for equipment.
I think we should talk about that later tonight, so we
I
we
agree.
can dive
That's what I'm
deeper
trying to
into it.
do.
Okay,
But I agree with you that more money should be put in.
yes,
Onto my
Do you
point that
have
I
a
wanted.
dollar amount to add?
for now, let's make it 1,000, change it down the road.
And I'm in agreement.
Okay. Council Higgins? Council Madore?
No, I don't agree.
And I will support
Aye.
that.
I will, the idea is, I believe that, private citizen going ahead and doing this, she is doing her own funding, trying to go ahead and raise money. If she has a specific request, for funding that to help afterwards, it should come as an order to the council asking for, I mean, we have age friendly, we have Meals for Me.
Did your mic die?
We have organizations that come yearly and ask for donations to help support their fundraising efforts. I believe that this should come in the form of a order in front of the council with a specific number for that request, and we deal with it on a year-to-year basis as it comes in. Some years she may need more, some years she may need less. She may perpetuate it. She may decide in a year or two that she cannot do it anymore and she needs to let go of it. But we've created a line in here that we're gonna have to get rid of. I just think I think what you're looking at is a request comes a request and an order rather than a budgetary line.
Yeah, we've already discussed that. We're just increasing the donation line $1,000. That's the only thing that's being, the rest of that can happen at a town council meeting. The only,
Point of order, that's what I'm getting to. Let's move on because the discussion regarding this item will be in a town
Right.
meeting. And
We'll be talking about it later.
For the sake of moving forward and everything else, yes, I'll support raising the donation line 1,000.
you have direction to raise it to $6,000. Thank you.
Fantastic. One more item in the cemetery that is not represented here, but just recently brought back to my attention. We have a need to increase the services around grass seeding and grub treatment for that property. The increase should be to $10,000 to cover the cost of both of those services in the next year.
What line is that one on?
4030.
Yes.
So in other words, we're going from a decrease of $2 up to an increase of 7,500. The gap.
It appears odd. It sure does.
It's the gap. Considering the situation, Mr. Chairman, if I could, considering the situation we had a few years ago where grubs got up there and destroyed a lot of the grass and soil, there was erosion, there were people's loved ones that were, it was looking terrible. And fortunately, we were able to go ahead and get green thumb up there. We sprayed, we got control of the grubs. I don't want to see it going back to that situation. So if that's the situation that could be pending or something like that, we're doing a preventatory, I'm trying to think of the word, prevention. Yes, then I would support going up to 10,000, make sure that that is taken care of.
10,000 on the cemetery line of 4030.
4030 fertilizer, seed, and
Council comment? Public Works Director, do you have something to add?
Sounds like you're in agreement. I just wanted to explain that the most of that increase is due to fertilizer. The 26 that was budgeted was last year's price. The bill came in, or the quote came in for the upcoming year after I put this together at $9,000. That one service. I'm looking around. I found a local company cheaper than Green Thumb, but that didn't supply the grub control. It's going to be on top of the $9,000 that they wanted. We're going to be in that area.
Is the council in favor of raising it $10,000? All right, you have your direction, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Might as well make it look pretty.
All right, onward. Recreation. In this draft, really only a couple of slight changes there, with a potential increase of $310. I have had some requests recently and over the past year about spending some money to replace some of the old weathered, cracked swings that we have around a couple of the playgrounds. So I don't necessarily know the cost of those. Maybe Jody can expand on that if she has some more information. So we'd love to be able to place those.
Madam Rec Director, would you please come forward?
I just got a text on my way up here because I did call the playground guy about a baby swing for the Katahdin Pride Park because there was a request of another toddler swing. And that toddler swing is $430 with shipping. And then I asked him how much the belt swings were to replace over Little Italy, and he said they were $145 a piece. I have to go up and see how many we have over there, but I just got those figures this afternoon, so we're probably talking $1,500 maybe or so, probably to replace the swings.
Council Bragdon.
On the same discussion, on new equipment, there has been some citizens that have obviously reached out to us and some that have reached out to me recently about the basket hoops that we have around, the area that are in desperate need of repair. I don't know how much a new piece of string is that wraps around a basketball hoop is, but I can't imagine they're too expensive, but maybe that may be something we need to look into too. I know there's one in the new development. I know there's one over by Iron Bridge Road that are really, really bad. And then I don't know the extent of the ones at the playgrounds.
Are you just talking about the netting?
Yes.
Well, those aren't bad. We'll get those this summer. We'll get them. I'll order them this spring. But there was talk about the backboards on Little Italy that Peter had mentioned about replacing those. I don't have a price for those. So I have to take a picture of them, I guess, and send them to the guy at White's and see what he can do to they got to fit the same pole or we're going to be digging out poles and all the whole process.
So your total request would be about $1,500?
That's for the swings. That's replace all the swings.
Is that the only request that you have?
That's what Peter had mentioned today.
Let me get started.
Mike's got a list.
Oh, let me get started. Mr. Chairman. As I looked over the capital improvements for the request for recreation and on the 5-year plan, one thing I did not notice, and I think it needs to be brought to the attention, is the poor condition of the basketball court that is the outdoor court down at Stearns High School. It is in bad disrepair. The court itself has tremendous cracks. It's been sealed several times. It is, I believe, beyond repair. Now, talking with the rec director, ballpark figure for that, I believe, to take out the old tar, level that field, level that court, get it a good base underneath it, and then retar would be about $32,000. But I believe that it is one of those essential things to have outdoor courts for kids to play at. I much in the same way of doing the backboards in Little Italy, making sure that we have recreational opportunities for our kids summertime to play. That court used to be very used a lot by kids.
Still is.
And it could be again. And I think that, I think if we don't do it this year, we definitely need to put it on our radar for next year for capital improvement for that court to be resurfaced and redone. Because I think it's a crying shame that we have such a great facility down there for so many other reasons, but that court is not part of it. And we've shown great improvement. Look what we've done with the tennis courts. Look what we've done with the baseball and softball fields. Look what we've done with the fencing. Now, I think that basketball court has got to be the next thing in line.
Any other council comment? I didn't hear a request to, are you requesting that a line be moved up $32,000?
That was my question.
Well, 32 plus what she's already asked for.
33.5. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that the Recreation Department, capital improvement line be increased by $35,000.
Council comment?
Pelletier.
I'm wondering, rather than have, where this is the rec department and not the school, and they're having a lot of tar work done, if this is not something that we could have Public Works having with their tar paving work, as opposed to going out as a separate bid that could, not get the same kind of rate that you get the bulk that we're doing with the town.
Mr. Manager, do you know the answer to that?
I believe the answer to that is no.
Thank you. Council Bragdon?
6:30, just letting you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go through it until we're almost done, right?
Well, it's a different Zoom meeting, correct? For the town council meeting. So there are probably people waiting to get on just for full. Does say directly, okay.
Yeah, that verbiage on there.
I wonder why.
Well, because Councilor Bedor's here. Thank you.
So which line specifically, Council Madore, would you like that?
Actually, I'd like to see it put in the capital improvement line for recreation. I believe that the $35,000 that could be for the tennis courts and the swings put right in the capital improvement line. And part of the 5-year capital improvement plan for this year.
Council Higgins, how do you feel? Council Bragdon?
I'm all in favor of doing it for the kids.
You have your direction, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Jody. 1009 snow sled and ATV program. This is the expense side of some grant funding, so this is really kind of irrelevant here, but we'll see that later in the revenues. 1106 holiday and events. I did just notice this afternoon doing my meeting prep that, oh, I'm sorry. For those playing along at home, we did the airport operations and airport business at last week's budget workshop. So we'll be skipping to page 22, holiday observations and events. Look at that. I just cut about 25 minutes off this thing. All right. I noticed this afternoon that we had not provided the same increase or the same level as we had this past year at $10,000. So I would make a suggestion that the council approves an increase to that line to bring it back to a minimum of 10,000. I think that the committee has certainly done a great job over the past year of offering opportunities for people to come together. And I know they have big plans going up into this coming year. I know that the unspent line shows quite a dollar amount right now, but with the upcoming events, the rest of the movies, what else is the bike rodeo and several other things, will be taking care of the majority of that balance. So I would just request that be put back at least at $10,000.
Council Pelletier?
I agree. I'd like to move that
Council
we do
Bragdon?
that.
Council Madore?
Yes.
Council Higgins? You have your direction.
Fantastic. 1300 capital improvements. This is really the expense side of the capital plan that we'll go over in just a bit. I will say that the overall proposed capital budget we'll see later is $568,479 before the proposed increase this evening. And increase year over year of $241,000. $241,591. Any questions there? 1301 special capital improvements. Really nothing shown here for FY24. And the final line on there, county tax. We are presented with an increase of tax to Penobscot County this year of $10,486.
I'd like to see that line flat.
I would too.
I'm in agreement. Make it happen.
Make it so, number one.
Before the changes that were suggested this evening, I wanted to say that we are at that point, we were at an overall decrease of $1,030,345. Obviously, that's changing by a couple $100,000 just the course of this evening. But when we come back for the special hearing next week, I'll do another overview that identifies those changes.
We appreciate all your hard work, Mr. Manager, and your entire staff. Once again, I applaud you and your entire staff, along with the treasurer. And we will, after this meeting, we will go into, we'll take a few-minute break, bathroom break for everybody that needs it, and then we'll go into a regular town council meeting. The next public hearing is next Thursday at 5:30, correct?
It is, but may I just mention that we have several more things to review in this workshop?
Sure. Oh,
Before we're
sure.
done. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I knew that.
We're gonna go over the revenues now. We talked about how we're gonna spend all the money, so now we're gonna talk about where the money's going to come from to spend.
This is the good part.
This is a great part, yeah. Nope, I take that back. We're going to do the capital plan. Matt, do you mind changing that document? Figure we'll talk about capital before we get into where the income's coming from. Notes within the capital plan should not take long. This is fire and ambulance. It's time to replace one of our ambulances. The total cost on that is $300,000. Very necessary piece of equipment. In the public works, we have some changes from what you received in your packet last week. What we believe is some pretty creative problem solving and good methods of moving funds around here. So we removed the pavement roller that had been there previously with some strategic use of unspent funds that you'll see on a council order later this evening. We've found enough already to pay for that piece of equipment without the need to raise additional taxes to cover that cost.
I'm sorry, what piece of equipment is?
The roller, pavement roller that was previously listed. The trash trailer replacement has turned into a refurbished trash trailer. Brian has been able to negotiate a nice agreement locally with Pelletier Manufacturing to bring the trash trailer we were intending to replace back to life for quite a substantial decrease in cost. We're looking at about $35,000 there, I think. And that's roughly $100,000 less than we were expecting. So I applaud him for exploring that option and then getting a quote on that. The other item listed, there's two more items listed in public works for capital improvement. One is a bucket truck. That is simply unsafe to use and needs to be replaced. far too often for our crew to be expected to take any risks in that equipment. And it's a pretty vital tool for our crew. So we plan to replace that this year, as well as our 2009 one-ton truck. That one to be replaced this year as well. The recreation, prior to the adjustment made just earlier, has several items. I'm going to make a suggestion that we may discuss at a later council meeting, but I would like to propose that the skylight replacements get taken care of through our local ARPA funds. That'd be a $16,000 cost. It was an unexpected item, but it is absolutely necessary. They just this past fall, it was discovered that those were starting to leak into some electrical equipment within the building. So I'd like to propose that we remove that from the capital plan and take care of that with ARPA funds. It's a very fitting use of those funds. And if there's enough interest, I'll make those changes and present that order at an upcoming council meeting. We may also be able to take care of the tractor later in once we find out with budgeted funds that are already from the FY23 budget. We're waiting to hear back on a final answer for our LED upgrade through Efficiency Main within the municipal building. We've not been able to perform that job yet, so we may have some unused funds that can related to maintenance that we may be able to use to cover the expense there. So I'd certainly welcome thoughts. The overall capital plan budget, as I mentioned, is $568,479. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
Council Bragg.
I am fine with the proposal of doing the skylight with ARPA funds. I think it's a good use of it, and we have quite a bit of money left over. So I think that's fine.
Thank you.
I agree as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council Higgins, Council Madore. We all agree.
Fantastic. I will get that ready for the future, and I'll hopefully have an update on those unspent funds versus the tractor by next week. And that being said, we can move to the revenue budget. That's Culver.
Doing a wonderful job over
Correct. Can we back up just one moment? Just one moment. You don't necessarily have to bring up the document again, but you've noticed on my manager's report for this evening, there's mention of the culvert replacement, the funding, the timeline. There has been an increase to that project on top of the state grant funding and the local funding that was allocated to that previously. The increase on that, what'd you say was? You have a shortfall of about $155,000 for that project. So we would look for some guidance on how that should be taken care of. May be able to identify funds. It's a pretty stretch to imagine that would be possible. So would the council be interested in adding that to the capital plan?
Council Madore.
Yes, I would be interested in adding it. It's a need more than a want.
Council Higgins.
That's the one where they're having to reroute fire trucks, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you right there. It needs to be.
Council Bragg.
We have a thought here at the table we'd like to share too. Sorry, go ahead.
Good.
Our revenue sharing proceeds looks like it's going to exceed our budget. So last year, as some of you may recall, we used some of that money to reserve for the reval. And a possibility would be to use some of that money to reserve for this project rather than put it in the budget. So we could look at that.
Comfortable with that?
I personally think the reval money should stay with the reval money and this should just be added to the capital plan, just in case of any unexpected things come up with the revaluation. Personally, but I'm fine with adding it to the capital plan.
No,
It
no,
does stay with, this is a different set of funds. The reval will be spent on the reval.
So I guess
It's
it's
just a similar method of
one of the extra
identifying the
revenue
funds.
sharing
Oh,
funds.
okay, yeah, all right.
It's just a similar, yeah.
Good enough.
You're in favor?
Yeah.
Sounds like we're all in favor.
Yep.
We will make arrangements. So now we can go over to the revenue budget. We look at 0101 general government. There are several increases shown there. Our investments are doing well, given the interest rates. So you'll see an increase in that line to be expected. Our main revenue sharing has increased quite a bit to a total of $2.2 million. We have a strategic use of that funding in our budget as proposed. We've included 75% of it straight into the budget. We have 25% of that total offset by use of our undesignated fund balance. That's a pretty safe method. If for some reason the revenue sharing were to fall short, we would have that cash there to cover it. And if it tracks as it has been and as it's projected to, that funding we have from the unassigned fund balance that's included would just stay right there in the unassigned fund balance as unspent. So we have a total from the unassigned fund balance, including that 25% to offset the revenue sharing of $756,000. As I mentioned, most of that will likely not be used from the unassigned fund balance in the long run. And then there are a few $100,000 in that are solely intended to offset the spending in the budget, which is the intention of those funds to begin with. So pretty safe there. Total decrease shown $29,635. Any questions on general government revenue? There are no changes in elections registrations. The town clerk's department revenue is expecting a decrease of $12,600 as presented. Assessing shows a very slight decrease related to tree growth valuation. If we go to 0108 municipal building, I'm currently in the process of wrapping up the lease negotiations with our court here, our tenant second floor. We're expecting an increase there of $8,240 for the upcoming fiscal year. And then just a note, on top of that, they're planning to contribute the $25,000 towards the elevator modernization, as well as they provided new dual drinking fountain / bottle filling station that's being installed in the hallway. You noticed that was covered in plastic, I'm sure, on your way in. That's an ongoing project. They did supply that to us, and we'll pay for the installation. Overall, quite a bit of additional contribution coming from our tenant this year. Very happy to report. Any questions there? All right. 0114 planning and code. Revenues in this department, I think we very safely projected an increase of just over $1,000. I think that, or I expect that with our transition to the more convenient permitting platform, we're going to see a more substantial increase with that. But I really, it is an unknown at this point in time. I didn't want to go crazy with it. So in this first year, I'm proposing that increase, and I think it's pretty safe. 0115 economic development. This is where you'll see the pass-through funding for the CAT TV. You'll also see the GMP loan with our Katahdin. That's offset on the expense side of it. Any questions throughout there?
Oh,
Police department shows 0. 0203 fire department. That shows the stipends we receive for services provided to unorganized territories, Scottsdale and Penobscot counties. That's showing an overall decrease of $20,000. That's due to Stephen and Tabitha King grant that we had received this past year. It's not an ongoing thing. But that was a great source of funding. We were
it's
able
not
to.
in perpetuity.
It's certainly not in perpetuity. It would be fantastic if we could arrange that. But it was a great opportunity for us to replace some turnout gear, so we're very grateful for it. 0204 ambulance billing. This is increased by $25,000. That's pretty safe bet given our new company and our new our billing company and collection company. Moving forward, the insurances, fringe benefits, both show 0. 0402 Public Works Administration, that stays flat, as that's the flusher truck service to wastewater. It's a pretty reliable budget line. 0407 Public Works, Roads and Construction. We're expecting a slight decrease there, $290. 0409 Transfer Site, showing a decrease overall of $581. The recycle program can play a part in that. Given the current numbers and participation over there, we're think this is a pretty safe estimate for revenue for the department. However, depending on the fluctuating cost in the market for those materials and the participation in the community for recycling those materials, we have not been able to sell a load of that yet, but we're seeing steady increase in participation. So it's hard to say, but we think that's a pretty safe bet the way it's presented. General assistance, public health and welfare, and cemetery, all showing flat budgets. Recreation funding shows a minor decrease. That's from Kids Peace contributions, just $100. Snow sled and ATV shows a decrease. This, again, that's grant funding that gets distributed on the expense side. We will likely update that throughout the year when we find out those values. Airport operations shows 0. This funding would come through later in the year and be adjusted for that. Airport business. Notable increase in expense there on the, or noticeable increase in the expected revenue there. That's from the jet fuel sales. The inventory item side of that was shown in the expense report earlier. This is the revenue we expect from selling that product. Total increase there in revenue expected of $19,050. The holiday observation and events, these were donations in the past. It shows 0. That's how it goes. And then again, no activity in the capital improvements that are shown there. That will wrap up our revenue review. Do we have any questions?
Megan's, you all set? Council Bador's all set. Council Bragdon's all set. Council Pelletier.
All right. 2 more quickies. We've got the wastewater expense and revenue to review. Our superintendent Jason, I believe, is on Zoom if we do have any questions here. This is a pretty straightforward department of the town that is not based off the tax increase, so runs more like a business. Within the wastewater administration, you see very slight change, just about $565 there. The wastewater protection, that is an increase of $1,100. Wastewater operations. Once all these adjustments in this variation column are completed, we have an overall decrease of $70,603 in the cost to operate. Wastewater pump stations. We are expecting an increase there of just over $8,000. Pump stations are the locations throughout town that push all of the wastewater into the direction of the lagoons out by the transfer site. Wastewater collection has a minor increase of $400. Wastewater debt service actually decreases overall. Those line items in there are all debt related to major sewer engineering projects that we take out loans or bonds to pay for. And then the wastewater capital improvement. One adjustment to this, I believe that was made since this draft had come out, would be the truck replacement. Mary Alice, am I correct? Yes, we did agree that given some other more pertinent items that had shown up in the past week, we'd really like to reallocate that funding to right. And so I mentioned an unexpected issue. So we have some unexpected repairs that will need to be made to one of the pump stations in the town. We're waiting on an estimate of total cost on what that will run us, and we have a feeling that it'll be in the ballpark of the value of that new truck. So they feel they can get by with the truck that they have for the time being, and we'd likely propose a swap in the spending of that. The overall decrease for wastewater capital improvement year over year is a little over $360,000. Does the council have any questions? These are, line items are more specific. I would defer them to the superintendent.
Yeah, it was announced. You guys have anything to add? Looks like we're good.
Okay. We'll flip over to the wastewater revenues. You'll see that this is a very basic report, and the increase needed to run that overall is 1,839. Is that a comma? 1 million. It's been a really long day. You can see the total revenues there on that bottom line. 1,839,000. Thank you.
Ready for that break?
I'm ready. Yeah. Maybe a Cliff Bar.
Are you completed with the presentation, Ms. Manager?
That completes the budget workshop for the evening.
Any other closing comments from the council?
No.
You guys are all set? Thank you very much. We're taking a 10-minute break and be back to hold our regular town council meeting.